Each of us as individuals, how we move and what we think matters at this time. We're experiencing a great economic shift in which your creativity is requested. Rama Business School is a 4-day program that teaches you actionable insights and advice on building your online business, yogic technologies to penetrate the online noise and boost your sales, and how to create meeting, interconnection, and possibility in the digital age. Join us for Rama Business School, Prosperity and Velocity in the Digital Age, online May 14th through 17th. Discover more at ramayogainstitute.com/business-school.
Hi, Reality Riffing. I got to sit down with Millana Snow, the CEO and founder of Wellness Official, where their mission is democratizing wellness and really deconstructing a lot of the current structures that exist in wellness, in the wellness industry. Our conversation was real. It was riveting. It was very heartfelt. She is a very sincere and authentic leader, and also a Virgo and a projector. We had some Virgo projector love between each other, but I really value and respect her as a colleague and a really incredible role model. So I hope that you're nourished by our conversation and you learn some things that stick with you. I certainly learned a lot from this conversation. Hi there, and welcome back. I am live here with an incredible powerhouse CEO and founder, Millana Snow of Wellness Official, which is an online marketplace of practitioners and brands for the global wellness community, and it's geared towards democratization and making wellness widely available to all, which is, of course, very dear to our heart here at Rama. And thank you so much for your profound work, Millana. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. This has been a really great building up to getting to finally connect with you.
I know we have a lot. We have a lot of friends. We have like 1 degree of separation. We've been orbiting.
Totally.
So I'm very happy that you're here. And we were just talking offline about how you're doing in all of this and what's happening. I'd love for you to share just kind of some of your journey in the past, this particular pivot point in human history, if you don't mind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, it is absolutely a transformational time for all of us. And I think what I've been saying the most is that this coronavirus is more like a spotlight on how things have always been, that now everyone can see. It's an equalizer of shining a light on what the injustice, the healthcare system, where we are in our own personal practices, where we are in our connection to spirit and source. And it's really an opportunity for us to look at ourselves and then to look at society as it's already been functioning this way. Now we're like, oh, we all have to look at it because we now see that we're all interconnected. And so a lot of the work that I've been doing, both personally in my own households and with the community and the business, has just been recognizing that we still get to do our work, we still get to shine, we still get to be healthy while there is still chaos. And we also need to acknowledge that there is chaos and injustice, and there always has been. And we still need to do our work independently to be of service in the midst of all that.
And how do you, you're an activist and an entrepreneur and a teacher and a leader. How does that kind of exist for you in your world? Because I think activism is taking a much different shape in the digital world, and I'm just curious how that all kind of intersects for you.
Well, I love the word activist coming out of your mouth, relating that to me. Because I would never consider myself that when I think about all the activists that I know on the front lines, who are really putting their bodies on the line for the betterment of all of us. I would say the way that activism has taken shape for me has actually been behind the scenes. There's a lot of things that I have done as a healer and as an advocate for many, many years, almost a decade, that a lot of people have no idea that I've been doing, that Wellness Official has been doing on the behalf of wellness for everyone, and then supporting the people who are on the front lines, literally putting their bodies at risk. So for me, activism has really taken the shape of being of service behind the scenes in ways that people don't even need to know that we're working. And I think a lot of us are doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, I do thank you for your humility. I know that, however we describe advocacy or activism, I think it is taking a different shape in the kind of digital world, and how that then kind of allows us, or how that creates the kind of offerings. And obviously, with Wellness Official, this is not, as you describe, it's a decade. This isn't an overnight thing, but tell us how you've kind of created this, and what's happened in terms of your decade-long process around creating the Wellness Official, and why, and what it's serving, and how people can be educated, because I think it's a really important part of everything that we're doing now.
Yeah, thank you. I think, for me, a lot of the activism and or advocacy that is now apparent through some of the work that we do in person and online really comes from an answer that I needed to respond to for myself. I would say about 10 years ago, it started when I was modeling and acting in New York. And I was really totally shrouded in the illusion of competition and body illusions around how bodies should be, and how beauty is, and who makes money and who doesn't. And I finally got to a point in 2012, which was a really pivotal year for all of us, just with the awakening. And in 2012, I finally realized, what the hell is this? What am I doing? I need to come out of my spiritual closet, is what I always say. And so I finally just stopped modeling and acting in that way, in the context of what, those constructs were told to be successful. And I started doing rooftop yoga, not being a yoga teacher, but just bringing in my friends who are yoga teachers, bringing them together because I wanted to do something that I could actually be proud of, that actually represented my values, not knowing how in the heck that was going to be a business or someday become a digital venture. And then over time, I started to see that there was a big disparity around who was being represented in the wellness industry. Yeah. And I myself had at least 2 or 3 what I call colonizing experiences. Yeah. And as a multicultural woman, as a woman of color, a Black woman, also raised by my white family, I couldn't ignore that race and race consciousness was a part of what was happening in the shift of spirituality and wellness. Yeah. And being a woman who's been from all over the world, multiculturally and through my lineage, I just realized that I had to answer the call to open the door for more people to be seen and included. And I had to answer the call to step into it myself when that happened to me, when I realized that I was actually pushed out from the industry myself. Yeah. And that was what actually fueled it, a very personal understanding of what it means to be colonized, and a very personal understanding of what it means to be left out and shut out because of how I look, what school I went to, my socioeconomic status. And so I decided to flip the script and make something that could be for everyone. Mm-hmm.
And how did that, so that was in, kind of the seeds and the
I didn't do the digital part, did I? You're like, so the digital part, how about that part?
Yeah, we want to hear.
Yes, so the digital part, honestly, it was a winding road to get to it. I mean, I had a few different iterations. I had a company called Serene Book, which failed miserably, had a horrible ending to that actually ended up being the biggest upgrade of my life. Translated into just really understanding that my vision is what is the soul and the fuel of anything that I do. And that if that's not in it, that's not going to happen. And so what I wanted to really talk to you about today and share with everybody is that the biggest thing that I learned, even in translating my spirit, my soul, my vision into something that could scale to larger audiences, was understanding that I had to trust myself to build a digital entity that I didn't think I could build.
Right.
And if there's anything that I could share with anybody today is that I don't, who knows what Wellness Official Millana Snow look on the outside like, but on the inside for years, it was really me having to be tested over and over again to believe that I had enough intelligence, talent, resources to just cobble together the little pieces that I could. And over time, I took what was happening in real life, like producing events and working with practitioners, to then translating that to being on the online space, which is what we're doing on Wellness Official. But even with MillanaSnow.com, I've been doing online energy healing for about 2.5 years.
Wow.
And that was just doing energy healing in person or remotely with my clients globally, and then realizing that we could do the same thing at scale on the internet.
And how did it, I mean, I'm very curious about these mechanisms because I think so many people are facing this right now. How did you realize through your avatar, through the quantum field, that things were, that it was working, quote unquote? I know that maybe you were getting feedback, but was there something in you that realized that the penetration through the virtual world, the energy was landing? Do you know what? Yeah.
Yes, I love where you're going with this. Yes. Okay. So the first thing always I have found has been that I have to feel that click inside of myself. There's this little click that says, oh, I'm ready to be seen. Oh, I'm ready to step into this next level. And it always follows suit then that things start to mirror back to me in the digital virtual world once that click has happened. And I've had a lot of people in the past year that have said to me, like, what did you do all of a sudden? Like, why did things just kind of grow, and what turned for you? And I always tell people the first thing before anything around social media or partnerships or digital events, it is always like, am I willing to be seen more? Am I willing to be more intimate with more people? And then when that happens, I start to see a shift. And then when it is like actually mirrored back to me, I think it's come in the form of really feeling like people are feeling an impact when I'm not there in person with them. Having experiences where people are emailing us, messaging us and saying, wow, I just went to that meditation. It literally changed my life. And getting those messages all the time are kind of icing on the cake, because really it's always following that, like, all right, I'm ready to share on another level. You feel what I'm saying?
I totally feel you. And I think sometimes it's hard to pattern or to put words to something that is also, you're describing in some way the indescribable. But I think that's a great, very applicable thing for anybody. It has to click in you, and what I would call the aura then grows, or the magnetic field kind of starts to expand to be able to kind of hold more people through whatever quantum field you're working with.
Exactly. And you actually said something, it might have even been this business school program last year, but I heard you say something in one of your videos about how you can kind of have like little AI bots working for you. It's like you use your spirit, even with your own physical team. Mm-hmm. You can also do that in the internet, and you can kind of plant those energetic seeds.
Yeah.
That you've got other things working for you on your behalf. So there definitely is, obviously, and I know at some point people are going to want us to talk about like the actual technical, tangible parts of how to build the business.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was so excited about talking to you about this is because I knew that we could talk about the spiritual aspects of it, and how that predates any physical success.
Yep.
And actually being able to plant seeds and send out those visualizations and cues out to the universe saying, like, when I do this thing, this is the kind of response that we're going to feel, not because I need someone to affirm me, but because I know that my people are looking for me just like I'm looking for them. And I'm going to speak to them from my heart, just like I would if I met them in the street.
Thank you. Yes. 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 So that, I mean, I think that is very pragmatic. That's the thing, is that relay, it happens. I mean, I feel like part of some of the what people feel are obstacles around the digital world, besides the tech, we can get there, is that there is somehow they feel like the relay is different, but not in person to in person. But I mean, of course, there's different aspects, but ultimately, it's not that different. Would you agree with me on this?
Absolutely. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
All of this is the same thing. As
Yeah.
I do my practice at home is the same way that I'm having this conversation with you,
Yeah.
the same way that we're having community connections around the world. And one of the things that I wrote down kind of this list of points I wanted to like share. And one of the first things that I shared in a post that I did actually this week leading up to this was like, we really have to be clear on why we're doing anything. What is our why? Like they always say, start with why, but it's not just why am I building a digital business or why am I doing online services? It's why am I doing anything?
Right.
And then if I'm clear on that and I'm consistent and committed on that, then everything I do, every conversation, every blog post, every Instagram story is connected to that soul, like vibrational expression of that is uniquely yours from source, from oneness. And then that's what really is magnetizing, because it's actually like that cord that's coming from your calling, your purpose.
It is the, I mean, I think that the why, I mean, I'm kind of an existential type, but the meaning that part of the way that I create something is that I always see it as dust, just as a practice for impermanence. But the how you do anything is how you do everything. It's something I say all the time. And it's really, I feel like it's part of the graduation process from doing work that maybe isn't at the center of what the soul's mission is, to doing work that is at the center of the soul's mission, whether it's working for yourself or working for a company that you really believe in or a cause that you really believe in. What do you think about that? What say you?
That everything, that how we do one thing is how we do everything. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, and actually, like, I lead a lot of meditation. I still do energy healing. A few years ago, I was told that being an energy healer and being a wellness entrepreneur or a tech founder, that those two things just couldn't go together. And I remember getting so much shit, like, how are you going to be an energy healer and go talk to investors? It doesn't make sense. And what I realized when I finally stepped into my full, was like allowing myself to be my full self, no matter what that looked like in society. I noticed that that thing that was considered, not appropriate, actually ended up being the thing that brought my people in. You know what I mean? Like my community came closer because I was connecting with them on a soul level. And then it just so happens that, oh, by the way, if you'd like to do this with me or other people online, we have a whole community that you can do that. And so, the parts of us that we want to say, oh, this can't be a part of the business or this can't be a part of this, that's the old paradigm that coronavirus has no time for, by the way. So we got to upgrade out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's pretty, there's so much deep conditioning and programming around this. I think, particularly in certain cultures, but it's collective consciousness that there's so much programming. I mean, you're talking about 2.5 years ago. I mean, this is 2016, 2017. You're basically getting pushback for being both a healer and an entrepreneur, which just, I mean, to me, it makes no sense, but these are the paradigms that are being recapitulated. It's the internal patriarchy in so many ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm sure that you have heard and have talked about how there's still this idea that being a healer means that we can't make money, means that we are not allowed to scale, that we're not allowed to step out into the global stage, or that those two things are in conflict, that they can't be both clear and in integrity. And that again is that old patriarchal way of being. And what I'm really empowering my community to do, and have to really continually anchor in myself, is that when we talk about making wellness for everyone, that means that practitioners and healers and teachers are empowered and sustained in both spiritual and physical ways. And so how can we make wellness, spirituality, consciousness something that everybody can have if we can't sustain the people who are the backbone of that ecosystem? And so that's one of the ways that, I think the work that we're doing is really important. It's like changing that idea that we can't make money or that those two things are in conflict.
Beautiful. That's where the rubber meets the road, because one of the yogic kind of science definitions of prosperity is that you're supporting other people's prosperity and livelihood. Like that's what, there's many ways of defining prosperity, but that's one of them. And certainly that's what you're doing with Wellness Official. Will you tell us kind of how it's evolved and how it works? Will you give us a little rundown?
Totally. Yeah, so the way that it is today, you can actually book sessions with holistic practitioners. We're actually adding an entire new lineup of practitioners this weekend. So you'll be able to see some of those and book them directly for digital sessions. And this is just actually the 2.0 beta version. So we have another version that's being built as we speak, where you'll be able to actually go into the individual profiles of practitioners globally, and you can speak to them directly, or you can book with them directly. And then we also are doing digital events right now in response to obviously the fact that we can't get together in person. We're doing everything online, just like you and I are doing here.
Yeah.
A lot of what has really worked, I found, like worked for what I've done is starting with gathering in person and really seeing what we love and what we enjoy and doing things that I actually want to go to every day, that I feel engaged in personally.
Yes.
And then from there, bringing those things online. So you'll be seeing a lot more events we'll be doing that are from practitioners that we've been working with for almost 10 years, and some that we've just recently met online. So it's really about being able to bring what we've been doing in person online.
And so, we're both CEOs of a Femme tech company, is what I would call it. And the tech industry is notoriously sexist and also I would say a racist as well. There's some notorious kind of stuff in the tech industry. And so how you didn't go to business school, you're not a coder. Like how did this all kind of come together? How did you make this happen? I mean, what were give us some kind of nitty gritty on it.
Oh man. Well, I just gotta say that yes, I have seen that side of the tech world. I've also seen a very generous community in the tech world, and I can honestly say that there's a lot of women that are really looking to change the way that it's being done and the way
Agreed.
that it's including others. There's a few men, more women, but there's a few men there too. But there's something really interesting that's happened with the tech industry, and it's this idea that you have to raise a bunch of money and then just throw some shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Right.
And the only people who can go raise that money are the people who have the family members in that community or who went to those schools. I mean, that's really the hard truth.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I actually found over the years, even though we've raised money through friends and family, that the VC world just really wasn't a model that actually was in alignment with our values or my personal morals. The idea of raising money, millions of dollars, that's kind of like just a bet for somebody else, and then seeing if then maybe you can make it back really seemed like an off model to me. And so that you know what I mean, which just seems kind of obvious. But most of the tech that we have been able to enjoy and use has gone that route, but these are the ones that have been able to be successful out of the millions and millions who have failed and lost millions and millions of dollars in the process.
Right.
So what we wanted to do, and really what Millana Snow, the brand, has done, was do things that actually make money. And that's where things really turned around for me. It was like, I've been sharing, I have a lot of things that we have in our pipeline, in our ecosystem, that is not for making money, that is of service, that we find other ways to connect, right?
Yep.
But you can't keep doing that and have people get fed and paid if you don't make money. And if you don't raise money that's kind of rigged, then you're in this conundrum. And so what I finally really understood was, well, the things that have always worked was working with brands who were totally aligned with our morals and having them sponsor and work with us to support us both online and in person, and then gathering with our practitioner community to provide services and events that actually are really valuable, that really change people's lives. And here's the thing, you got to do things that actually work if you want to continue to have a sustainable business instead of just being backed by like rigged money. And so that was really like the game changer. Just have to like start with that we had to find products that worked. And for me, it was energy healing sessions. It was consulting with brands. It was doing large scale events in person, online, and having brands get behind us and selling tickets. So all of that had to be intact.
Right.
And then, we had everything from working with developers in India to developers in Silicon Valley. When it came down to it, what I realized is the only way this was going to be successful is if I had tools that I myself could use. If I could use things like Squarespace, which is what we used for the first 4 years of the site to sell tickets.
Wow.
And, working on platforms that I personally, Millana Snow, could go in there and just fix things up on Canva, or, work with my team to quickly get things put together instead of having developers all the way in India. So I really recommend that people have programs like Wix or Squarespace or Shopify as a place to start and just build something on your own, because there's nothing like knowing your own product. And now we're actually, this new version of Wellness Official that's being built is in partnership with WordPress. And WordPress has taken on all the development for us, is really building out a full ecosystem that goes beyond what we have right now. But to be honest with you, that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't connected with WordPress on an energy healing talk at their big annual conference. So it's things like that come out of just creating real products that actually really impact people. And from there, that's how you build a business. And you use things like Wix or Squarespace or WordPress to then facilitate that.
Right, because I think we're in a very interesting time, because there are so many open, I guess maybe closed system tech where you can white label the back end of things, and it doesn't take that much to learn this stuff. I mean, there's always the this and that, but it's possible for anybody at any age who has internet service, basically, and something to get on with. I mean, that's where, talk about democratization. I mean, I do think that the internet has, in some way, although there are places in the world where people they can't get internet, but I think that the internet has been a huge democratizing force. Do you agree with me on this?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons why working with Matt Mullenweg, who's the founder of WordPress, who's 35, they actually say they are democratizing the internet. And so that's one of the reasons why I connected with him and his team, because their international team of something I think they've got 60,000 employees or something like that. They all believe in the idea of democratizing the internet.
Wow.
And so, I'm not going to pretend some of this stuff doesn't take time to learn. It absolutely does. I don't code personally. I have to rely on other people to code for me. Yeah. But I damn sure know how to move some things around on a Canva template. And these are the kind of things that, I have people on my team who can do that. But if it weren't for my own understanding of the nuance of how things in my business look or work, or how I'd like them to function at some point, if I didn't have that intimate understanding on my own, then I'd be relying on other people to express my vision for me. And so, obviously, and I'm sure you have had so many amazing people come in and help facilitate what you have today. And we have to give credit to the people who support us and work with us on these things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And at the same time, there's something to be said about really knowing your own product, even if it's not digital yet, really being clear on what is it that I'm offering? What is it that actually is really making an impact that also feels good? And then how can I even just kind of fashion that into a digital expression so that I can at least translate that to the developer who's going to work on it for me? So when you work with a developer, for example, you have to have a general template and understanding of what that is going to look like, what the UI is going to be, the user experience.
Yeah.
And you can't just tell somebody that. You have to be able to actually draw it out or put it out on the computer. And so I think this is the kind of stuff that we can just say, you know what, I'm smart enough, I'm talented enough, I do care enough, I want to just try my best, even if it's just sketching something out, to really be able to have more intimacy with your own product so that you understand it from the inside out.
It's so important. I mean, I think in any kind of creative or startup, we could call it startup culture or just creative execution. I have played every role in my company to date. I've done every single thing that I'm asking everyone else to do, except for maybe some of the more advanced tech stuff. And there is, I mean, in my opinion, this is kind of like the bootstrapping, really, whether you have the millions of dollars or whether you have nothing and you're starting with nothing. I mean, this is a skill set that we're really not taught to do. And I think there's reasons why we're not taught. I think there's reasons why, the jargons and the closed doors of certain industries and certain things we think we can and cannot do, just as, creatives or as startup business people or as women or as whatever, whatever kind of, I think there's reasons why we've been taught, but this is part of part of what has to happen now is kind of busting through some of those both cultural, but also self-created obstacles.
100%.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Absolutely.
And it's not, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you will like how this happens for you. I'm curious just because, I mean, I think the frustration is it's an important part of it. I don't know, like that, without making it fancy. I feel like being frustrated with like trying to learn something or trying to get inside something, I feel like it's a really important part of the process.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, there's something to be said about having blocks and then breaking through those blocks.
Yeah.
There's something energetically that you gain when you persist despite the challenge, despite the confusion. There's like, it's almost like I'm like thinking of like a video game. It's like you're like Mario and you just like you're getting the mushrooms and you're like leveling up,
Yeah.
There's something to that. And I think when people go straight to raising money before they have a product, before they have any idea of what they want to offer, they're trying to bypass the stuff that actually makes them so good. That's the stuff that like actually gives you the juice.
Yeah.
And something I've told a lot of people over the years, because God, it's been almost 10 years now that I've been doing this stuff, and a lot of it for a long time nobody was noticing. Okay.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean? And I know, because we're here right now. So it's like, for a long time, nobody's going to pay attention. And that's probably great because you're having to work through so much of your own shit and you're having to really choose over and over and over again that you're willing to begin again and begin again and begin again. And every time you do, you're up leveling, and so is your product, and so is your offering, so is your wisdom, so is your spiritual capacity. And so that is probably the most valuable thing, to actually hit those blocks of being frustrated or even having struggle. It's not, the key is to not stay there. It's to let those be like the stepping stones that you take to the next level instead of being the roadblocks of why you are stuck somewhere.
Yes, it's a very, I think many people who either have considered themselves not techie or who are trying to figure out how to redefine themselves in this current situation and economy, and I think we're really just at the beginning of what this is all going to look like. I think it's easy to exclude yourself somehow from pivoting, or we have all these kind of limitations, but I always tell everybody, I mean, the year's going to go by anyways, so why not learn something? Why not try? The days just go by, and so you might as well just do it. I mean,
totally.
And even not do it, like try to do it and not do it and fail. And I mean, but the days are going to go by. I mean, that's the thing.
Totally. And the thing about that too, is that I think this is a time where there's a little bit more space for this, but you got to be okay with not always looking perfect.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many things on wellnessofficial.co and millanasnow.com just piss me off.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's me doing, I'm the one that's like, damn it, I can't get this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like that, but that's not going to be the reason why it's not going to be up. It's good enough. That's something that a lot of my advisors told me in the beginning of building this platform. They were like, you need to ship it when it's good enough. And for me, as like a projector, a Virgo, all of the Virgo sun, I'm like, I love being perfect. And I had to learn the hard way that my attempts at being perfect are not actually achieving my goal, which is ultimately to connect with people in a real way. So the parts that, you know, I think are imperfect or ugly or don't make sense are actually usually the parts where people are like, oh my God, I love the way you said that, or wow, I love how organic this is all feeling. You know, it's the thing that people actually appreciate. And for those who have something to say, it's like, hey, you know, go work on your product, because we're all out here just doing the best we can. And if we try to be perfect, we're not going to actually ship the product. So ship the product when it's good enough. And even if it doesn't look the way you want it to or work the way you want it to, just keep iterating. And that's actually what digital businesses are mostly about. Keep iterating.
Yes, we've been working on we're about, this is probably the last thing that's going to happen on Rama TV as it stands and our whole Rama world digitally. We've been working on this for 3 years. And it's, you know, it's there, like in the 3 years, it's been so many things, so much tech has happened. We could have done it differently. It's not, I mean, it's just like, this is it's the journey. It's all about the journey. I'm also a Virgo projector. I knew. It's, you know, it's hard being us.
Oh, girl. Man, is it a journey?
It's hard. We're gonna get through it.
Criticize us worse than us. That's kind of the upside of being a Virgo sun. It's like, you know, I've said some pretty harsh, critical things to myself. So, you know, it's like that's the voice that I get to turn down the most. That's my work. Everybody else, it doesn't even matter. It's this inside, aligning these two parts. That's the journey.
Yeah, it's a big one. Although, and I know you've experienced this, I mean, how do you handle the hate, the criticism, the jealousy? I mean, this is what happens when you become a leader. And what are your practices around that? Because I think so many people are afraid of stepping into the spotlight or leadership roles because of this, and it's one of our issues. This is why we don't have very many good leaders, because people are afraid to be eaten alive on the internet.
Totally. I mean, I laugh because you have to have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, Mike, I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I actually said to my friend, you know, I completely understand why I used to be so afraid of being seen, because it comes with a huge responsibility. Not only will I mess up, and do I, you know, not only will that happen, messing up, but there's also something to be said about shining and being bright and joyful publicly, and how that can be such a contrasting event for people as well.
Yeah.
And so, you know, especially when it comes to spirituality, there's so much that people have to say because of their own dogma, their own religious beliefs, or their own fears around how they can liberate themselves or not. And that, you know, coming from I lived all over the country, but for 4 years I lived in Texas, in Houston, Texas, and there's a lot of people who I went to high school with who think that what I do is like demonic. I mean, you know, and I'm sure that's, you know, that's totally fine for them to talk about. But the thing is, what I've learned is that this is actually all the inner game. Like the thing that you're seeing, the glow up, the energy that people feel like, wow, something is going on with that person, is all the inner work. When you're talking about a person who's working holistically, okay? And even, you know, oracally, if you want to talk about like the energy of things, like even the people who are like really off their rockers but have like that auric feel and that brightness, it's because their internal world is also like calibrating to a certain frequency of like belief in self, or like permission slips being written all the time, right? And so for me, it's like this constant coming back to, all right, I understand that there's always going to be belief systems that are contrasting mine, or opinions, but the work that I have to do is actually tuning into my inner guidance system all the time, all day, every day. That's the work. And then it amplifies from there. And then, you know, the non-spiritual answer to that is also like just realizing you have to just ignore people. You really do. You take in some of the feedback that's actual feedback, because we all can have an opportunity to grow. Yep. But a lot of the people that we're afraid of that are going to judge us are actually the people that are on the sidelines, who are the ones that are most afraid to go and do that thing that you're doing. Yeah. And so remembering that a lot of times they're in pain, but that you can't actually talk to them from that place, and that you just have to actually just leave them be, because your words are not going to get to them anyways.
So how do you deal with it? Are you a delete and blocker, or?
I want to ask you first. I'm curious.
I fucking delete and block all the time. It's my favorite fucking thing to do. It's my pleasure, my great pleasure. And people have actually called the studio that I have blocked on social media to apologize. No, I am not kidding. I'm
my God, you're making me cry.
But I'm just, since when is my social media a place for people to work out their subconscious issues? It's like, fuck you. I don't care.
Totally.
Work it out on your social, post about me. I mean, it's like, if you really have such a problem, make a post about me and,
Oh, well, very recently I actually had somebody who did post about me, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. Well, and I think actually, and we should all be aware too, that when we're all sitting at home and we're all having to face our shit, and we're all like, having this spotlight on everything that we've been practicing that we may or may not want to deal with, there's going to be a lot of people who are then going to turn that opportunity to turn inward and just turn that shit on you.
Yeah.
And as a reason to feel better, as a way to try to be seen. And so those are very stealth ways that energy tries to work in all of us. And so we got to really watch ourselves. But to answer your question, I absolutely did block that person 2 weeks ago. And I just told her, right before I blocked her, I just told her, just remember, we're all mirrors for each other.
Yeah.
The things that you see in me and the way that you see me. The way that you see me right now, anybody who's listening, says more about you than it does me, because it's through your own filters that you see.
Yeah. And I do feel like, I'm kind of mafia this way, where if somebody comes and knocks on my door and tells me to fuck off, I have a lot of respect for that person. Like, those are my people. But you're going to be a coward on social media? Fuck you. That's how I feel about it. But you want to come and talk to me? I have no problem with that. But other than that, so, but I think it's good. I do think these things are important to talk about, because I feel like that wave of outrage and the pendulum swing that happens on social media and these social media mobs, I mean, this is real, and people are afraid to step into leadership because of this.
Oh, absolutely. And let's just be fair. People will be mean to you.
Yes.
Let's be really and in real life, in person, people will try to literally hurt you and steal from you. That is the truth. Yes. I would be remiss if I put on a show and acted like that hasn't happened to me and that won't continue. So there is a reason why we genuinely fear that, because that is a part of that experience. But here's why that is less important, because what we came here to do as spirits, it will literally eat you from the inside out if you don't come up and do it.
Yeah. So
I rather have Sally call me a spiritual bitch on Instagram than create cancer in my body because I didn't come and do the thing that I came here to do in this body. I'd rather that. And so the people that have stolen from me or copied or have been mean, all of those things are small in comparison to the joy of living my truth and really stepping into my power as a like an expression of spirit. And I'm not just saying that, like that actually those two things, like the comparison is so low in contrast to like what it really feels like when you're really stepping in your light. And so, the more that we step into our light, the more that we will draw, mosquitoes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also the more that you will draw light into your life, into the life that the people that you love. Yeah.
I also, I feel like part of sovereignty and what I always encourage everyone to do is everyone is sensitive and smart and powerful enough to really resonate and follow and be a part of the things that they feel have integrity. So, I think this is part of also the democratization of this age, which I would call the Age of Aquarius. But this new era, especially, I mean, this 2020 was a new level of, like, 2012, 2020, a new level of this new consciousness on the planet, which is that you're smart enough to know whether this is the right place for you. So if it's not the right place for you, then, I'm from the South. If you don't have something nice to say, just, unfollow and go follow somebody you think is doing something that is right, or whatever.
Totally. To each their own.
To each their own. It's a powerful thing, but also when you're trying to create something, if you don't follow that, it's a golden rule, I think, of being an entrepreneur, is that you got to mind your own business, because you got enough on your hands to, you have to.
Right there. There's a reason why the saying goes, mind your own business. This is, like, applicable to this actual mind your own business, because also, just to touch on, like, the extension of haters is also, like, the extension of what we deem as competition. And I just have to say, like, especially when we're making digital businesses in this era, when so many of us are like, oh gosh, I gotta finally do that thing. Don't think about the competition. People are going to think of you as competition, but that is a game where only losers play. Like, there's no rise above this idea of competition. I don't compete with anyone. I definitely see that there are market players, but the idea of competition, the idea of let me see what other people are doing, let me look around and do better, that is a game that nobody can win.
Yeah.
It's always one-upmanship. And so when we talk about having, a real holistically successful, and I mean, like, in every way, kind of life and business, it's going to come from constantly coming back to your own inner guidance, that inner vision, which is infinite source informing you from, like, the collective unconscious, telling you things that no competitor could inform you, keeping you always ahead. And then just know that people will be following you, people will be copying you. But if you continue to be, like, inner led, spirit led, then you'll always be leading from a place that is your own, that's always a step ahead of the curve.
I love this Virgo projector. I feel like I'm thank you. You're so eloquent, and so I resonate deeply. So I have two more questions, and then maybe we can take some questions from our chat, our very lively chat. One is, if I'm getting this right, but correct me if I'm wrong, because I think this is important for founders and entrepreneurs to understand. Instead of taking, and maybe I didn't pick it up, but instead of taking investment money, except for maybe some angel investors, you have used sponsorships and just focusing on revenue generation as a way to build the business. Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the points that I made that I wanted to, like, make sure I share is, like, use what's working in real life. And it could literally, like, maybe you haven't gotten a sponsorship from Lululemon or Nike. Right. That's fine. Right. Like, do you really enjoy counseling your grandmother? do you really love to bake cookies? Like, and do people just love when they eat them? Like, whatever is working in real life, take your internet connection and use that to scale that thing from real life. And that's what we did with sponsorships. So yes, partnerships and collaborations has always been the center of my business, in person, online, because I freaking love people. Yeah. And connecting with brands and connecting with people who are behind those brands has always been easy for me. And so then we just translated that to being a digital part of our revenue as well.
Amazing. I think that's very, very important and super pragmatic. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, and I want to just in any way, if we can, inspire everyone out there. What ways do you feel that when you're either whatever phase you're in creation and execution, how can we as citizens and as humans do better to democratize and to be thinking about people who are underserved or have less access? Or how can you give us just anything that you feel is relevant for people to be thinking about or Googling or meditating on in terms of just being better citizens and better stewards of each other and the human species?
Totally. Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many parts to this, but I think a few things that come to mind is just to really start to check your own biases. You know, I even had to do this, even as a mixed person, I realized I had biases for both sides of my family. I had to check, I have, you know, my Panamanian Afro-Latino side of my family, and then my white mother who's from Oklahoma slash London. And I had to really look at all these different aspects of cultures and the biases that were embedded in me from those different cultures. So I think we really have to have like a sit down with ourselves and be like, all right, what are my biases and how are those actually being translated in my life subconsciously? And it's not just like, do I walk on the other side of the street when I see X person walking behind me? It's more so like, let me look at my friend groups and let me look at who I'm hiring and let me look at who I'm spending time with. Is it possible that I have certain biases around who can be in those groups, who could be in my team? And just really like pay attention to that. So that's the first thing. The second thing is like, you know, a lot of people are like, okay, we're going to have more diversity and inclusion. We're going to invite more people and we're going to have Black and brown folks on our Instagram. And I know that has like some good intention behind it, but we cannot tokenize. If you don't actually know those people, if you're not actually supporting those people or getting to know what their actual needs are, then that's called tokenizing. And so what we really can do is actually start to bring people into our lives who aren't serving as our educators, but are helping us to be expanders, to help us understand like, oh, wow, these are things that I was asleep to. And wow, like I'm noticing that, you know, if I own, let's say, if I own a tech company and I notice everybody on my board is a white man.
Right.
Well, I probably need to not tokenize a Black or brown person, but I need to go and talk to a Black or brown leader and find out what can I do to authentically really integrate people of color, not just into my board, but into my life and into my community. And the last thing I would say to make sure that we're not putting the burden of education on Black and brown people is that we have to educate ourselves. You have to go out and read books. And it could be everything from, you know, Bell Hooks to Rachel Cargill, to even just reading and following Black and brown leaders who don't even, you know, talk about race, but just starting to get more interested in understanding of the culture of which people are speaking from, the perspective of which someone like me sees the world. So start to bring people of color into your world in a way that's authentic and educate yourself. And those things will really get you into a new level of really actually knowing how to take action and how to be an ally, because Black and brown people do need white allies right now. Indigenous folks are in that too. I just want to make sure I'm really being clear on that, that we do need white allies. And you know, as a person of color who was raised by a white family, I can tell you that I have had to realize that I have privileges, and that those privileges, I need to also make sure that I use that for the good of my people and people who do and don't look like me. And so as long as we're aware that that is all of our responsibility in a time like this, where there is so much unjust structures and systems in place, that really is what we're all called to do.
Thank you. I mean, you just simplified something that's very, very complex and did it very, very well. I mean, in general on every subject, but I feel very, you know, kind of put off by what feels like showy allyship or kind of pseudo allyship on Instagram or whatever. And so I thank you for speaking to that, because I have been really careful about, making sure that I have integrity. If I'm going to somehow, you know, announce my, you know, do-gooderness in some way, which is, you know, again, an odd thing, in my opinion, I want it to really be backed up by true action and word and action. And so I think it's you know, it's really important if you're gonna try to do. There's so much kind of philanthropy and corruption and nonprofits, and there's just so much going on in that world. I mean, you could say that the nonprofit world is just as corrupt as the corporate world, if not more. And so just in terms of like doing things that are actually trying to expand ourselves and really look at our privilege, I do feel like it has to have integrity. And I think that's like a real inside job, you know?
Absolutely. It's an inside job, as with everything. And I also just want to say that it's really important on this note when we talk about diversity and inclusion and just standing up for justice as global citizens. It's really important to not just talk about it, but to be about it. And I think what you did by opening up the studio Rama East is really an example of you being about it. And I'm just so grateful to you for doing that. And it was really like, oh shit, look what she's up to. Okay, girl. Okay, we see you.
Thank you.
And so, you know, it's like when I see people say we're making wellness for everyone and we're X, Y, and Z for everyone, I'm gonna go look at your board. I'm gonna go look at who's on your executive team. And if I don't see Black and brown people, it's gonna make me think you're talking about it and you're not being about it. And we have to have that kind of actionable way of doing this work now, because the lights are on. People can see.
Yep.
And it's our work to do.
It's more the thing that the digital age and being in the digital world has given is that, I mean, everything is transparent. I mean, it's also very easy to create fictionalized things, and I mean, it's transparent in every way on the negative and positive polarity. And so I think this is also important as a leader or someone who's thinking about building something. It's like people, if they can't see it, they can feel it.
Yep.
And it's, you know, and we'll talk about this because you know, I can't wait to talk to you more. But even the Rama East project is, you know, I wanted to do something actionable, but in that project have learned so much about my ideas about what that looks like. And it's given me a great, I mean, such a huge learning. So, you know, even when your best intentions, it's like, this is how things get complex, is that, you know, we all have to continue to try to evolve.
Exactly. Iterate.
Iterate. Hashtag iterate. I'm into it. Okay, we have a couple minutes, and I would love to take some questions. Let me see if I can get our chat up here. And while I do that, Millana, will you tell everybody how they can engage with you, find you, talk to you, be a part of your community?
Yes, thank you. So I would say the first thing is we would love to have you all join us at wellnessofficial.co. You can sign up for our emails there. You can be a member by just joining on the site. Also following us on Wellness Official's Instagram and Millana Snow's Instagram. I will be teaching a energy healing digital training, as well as the in-person training. We have it set for July at Rama East for now.
I hope we can do it.
Yes. So, but we'll also be shortly announcing the digital live stream version of that for people to join us all over the world. So if you're interested in becoming an energy healer and being a part of the network that we connect people to, then we would love to have you there. You can DM us. You can just email us at millana@wellnessofficial.co.
Amazing. Will you put that into the chat as well? Okay. These are some questions. I think this is a good question. Can you talk about how you, especially at first, went about finding sponsors? Like, was there? I mean, I know this can kind of be like a interesting world. What would you say about give people some actionable steps for sponsorship finding or connecting?
Definitely. I think that's a great question. And the first thing that comes to mind is that if you've never had any sponsors or partnerships that you've worked with before, you want to start building on what you can. So for example, when we first started in 2012, I remember I won't say the yoga brand, but there was a yoga brand who wouldn't even let us borrow yoga mats. Like literally,
right.
We were doing rooftop yoga on the James Hotel in Soho, and I begged for yoga mats and couldn't get them. But what I was able to get was I had one guy friend who worked at Smart Water, and he let us have some bottles of water without sponsoring it. And so we took that Smart Water logo and we threw that across every single pitch deck that we had and said, we've worked with Smart Water. And eventually, after building up our press and continuing to do our events, even if it wasn't sponsored, the next year, that same yoga company that wouldn't give us yoga mats now was paying us to have their yoga mats on that rooftop. So you can use, even if, like, let's say you partnered with a small brand like Wellness Official is doing a podcast interview with us. You know, we're small in comparison to Nike, for example. But if you use that and say, look, we did this really cool event with Wellness Official, and then you pitch it to Nike, Nike may not land a contract with you that year, but as you continue to build your business, they will come into play. Yeah. So that's one thing. The other thing is, just like on the most like basic level, you really want to have a media kit, and you can actually get that from Canva. Canva has a bunch of really cool templates, and you can just like cobble together your pictures, your stats from social media, and your mission. And then you can send that out to people, letting people know, like, this is what our mission is, this is who we are. And I would start small if you've never had any sponsorships in terms of like what those pitches will be, because it's not because I want you to like think small, but to start small because you want to build a really good relationship with these brands. And you want to show them that you can do these things in the beginning, that you're great at the first, connection that you make. And then you go from there, and then you start pitching them much bigger. The last time we worked with the name of the brand that I won't name, we ended up being able to bring about $50,000 in 1 year from working with that brand after building a relationship for 3 years.
Wow.
So it's really like letting yourself recognize that these are going to be relationships that you're going to build, and those people who are at those brands are going to move on to other brands and think of you for other things. So it's really about building a long-term ecosystem where you're consistently bringing people quality things that you say you're going to bring them. Was that specific enough?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to just this normal kind of in real life thing, which is everything's relationships. And it's, whether you've ever met the person or whether you're just DMing someone on social media, you're creating relationships, and relationships are what grow businesses, in my opinion. And whether that's, used to be a Rolodex and now it's, a DM and whatever it is, but it's about relationship. And also, one thing about sponsorships, I would say, is that you said this, Millana, just reiterating, just growing with other businesses. So starting small and growing with other businesses, it's a great model.
Exactly. There's also one more thing I want to say that I think especially this audience will appreciate. I like to do this little game where I will say in a meditation or in a prayer, Spirit, show me who I should work with today. Show me who is the right person to hear my message, to connect with what we're doing. And I will literally scroll through Instagram, waiting until, and this is intentional scrolling, not mindless scrolling, okay? Yeah. And I will just go through and start hitting things I felt guided to reach out to and speak to. Yeah. And actually, one of our biggest partners in the past 3 years has been Pop Sugar. And I actually connected with the head of experiential through this method of just praying and meditating, then going on Instagram. I found her. She had like 800 followers. I DM'd her. Turns out we have one friend in common who's an amazing person. And now Lindsay and I are really good friends and collaborators at work. And they've been huge sponsors for us and partners and clients. So that is a powerful tip that you guys better use.
I love it because the virtual world is really an acute magnetic frequency exchange experience, and I think that's that happens in real life, but in the virtual and digital world, whether you're online dating or you're looking for a sponsor or you're trying to build your following or whatever you're doing, this is a magnetic exchange, and it's really powerful in the virtual world.
I agree. Totally.
Yeah. Millana, the chat's blowing up. We want to ask you like a million more questions. So I think we're going to have a part 2 to this conversation. And
love that.
So thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your just incredible generosity of spirit and being such a great leader and example. It's just such a pleasure to see you and to spend some time with you. And thank you for everything you've shared.
Same. Yeah, this was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
In. Feel free to DM me if you have questions that we couldn't get to today. And Thank you everyone for joining us.
Awesome. I think you might get a it might be the year of the locusts on your DM because it's going, the chat's just like blowing up right now. So thank you so much and have a beautiful day. Keep safe and we'll see you, I hope, in real life very soon.
I would love that. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.